All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into the major fault lines of power around the world, from a super high-stakes standoff in one of the planet's most critical waterways, all the way back to the political and cultural pressures shaping Canada's future.
And you know, right at the heart of all this global tension is this one massive question, and it's got billion-dollar consequences. What's the price of passage? We are talking, of course, about the Strait of Hormuz. It's where a fifth of the entire world's oil supply is now tangled up in a standoff that could literally rewrite the rules of the sea.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the global flashpoints that are putting everyone on edge. Then, we'll zoom right in on that Hormuz toll to figure out what it actually means. After that, we'll bring it home to Canada to look at tensions on the domestic front, before checking out some seriously ambitious plans for the future. And we'll wrap things up with a look at how culture and even nature are showing some incredible resilience. So, first up, let's talk about a world on edge. In some really key spots, diplomacy is just breaking down. And the consequences? Well, they're becoming dangerously real. You know, the whole situation between the US and Iran is, well, it's a mess of contradictions. On one hand, you have the US president threatening obliteration, while his own administration is claiming they're already 30 days into a war timeline and the talks are going well. At the exact same time, Iran has shot down a US drone, they've attacked a tanker, and they're flat out denying any direct talks are even happening, calling it all a ruse. The only communication we know for sure is happening is through Pakistani mediators. This isn't just a breakdown, it's a really dangerous dance on the edge of a cliff.
And while all that posturing is going on, the human cost of this instability is just staggering. As the conflict between Israel and Lebanon gets deeper, the UN is now reporting that a million people, have been forced to flee their homes. More than 1,000 have been killed. And just in the last 24 hours, 3 UN peacekeepers lost their lives. It's just a devastating toll for those caught in the middle.
And all of this leads us right to the heart of the global economic dilemma, this completely unprecedented situation that's now unfolding in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, so to really get what's at stake, we've got to talk about the law for a second. For decades, this idea of transit passage has been the rule of the road here. It's a cornerstone of international law, and it basically says that countries bordering the straits shall not hamper free and continuous travel. That's the rule, or at least it was. Because this is the new reality. According to intelligence reports, Iran is now basically charging a toll for safe passage. And the price tag? We're hearing it's up to $2 million for just one oil tanker. So this creates a totally impossible choice, right? I mean, what do? On one hand, you could pay the toll. You get your cargo, which could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, moving again, and you probably avoid a military conflict. Or you refuse. You stand up for international law, you avoid funding an adversary, but your ships are stuck, and the risk of something kicking off gets even higher. It's a lose-lose situation.
And from a legal standpoint, experts are crystal clear. This whole idea of a toll is just plain illegal. Think about it. If you can't get through safely without paying up, then your passage is, by definition, being hampered. There's really no gray area here.
So why would Iran do this? Well, just look at the money. The financial incentive is absolutely staggering. If this toll becomes standard practice, the potential revenue could hit $60 billion a year. To put that in perspective, that's nearly a fifth of their country's entire GDP from last year. It's a massive potential windfall, and it's a pretty powerful way to get around all those crushing international sanctions.
Okay, let's bring it back home now. From these huge global pressures, we're going to zoom in on some major tensions happening right here in Canada, where a couple of big controversies have put national leadership under a lot of fire. So this comment right here, from Air Canada's CEO Michael Rousseau, made in Montreal of all places, it just ignited a total firestorm. For so many people, it just showed this profound lack of respect, not just for French speakers, but for Canada's identity as a bilingual country. It led to immediate calls for his resignation and eventually his retirement. And the public reaction? It was swift and it was huge. We're talking more than 2,000 official complaints filed. This wasn't just some PR gaffe. It really struck a deep, deep nerve about the Official Languages Act, especially for a company like Air Canada. I mean, even though it's private now, it's still a huge national symbol and is subject to the act. Meanwhile, over in Ottawa, another political storm was brewing. This one erupted after a new Liberal MP, Michael Maude, seemed to challenge an expert who was testifying about a report on forced labor in China. A lot of critics felt his questions were casting doubt on a really serious issue, and it put the Prime Minister in a very difficult spot, trying to rebuild trade with Beijing while also standing up for Canada's position on human rights.
Okay, so let's shift gears from controversy to ambition. We're going to look at two absolutely massive, future-defining projects that Canada is taking on. One is literally aiming for the stars, and the other is tackling a huge problem right here on the ground. This is just genuinely historic stuff. The Artemis 2 mission is a 10-day flight. It's going to send 4 astronauts, including our own Jeremy Hansen, on a trip around the moon. It's the first time any human has gone that far in over 50 years, and this crew is making history in so many ways. Hansen will be the first non-American ever to leave low Earth orbit, and he's going up with the first woman and the first person of color to make this incredible journey. It's amazing. And so, while one Canadian is getting ready for the moon, back here on Earth, our governments are trying to tackle the housing crisis. The federal government and Ontario have teamed up to announce a combined $9 billion in a massive push to kickstart the construction of new homes. So how's this all supposed to work? Well, it's basically a 4-step plan. First, the feds and the province put up the money. That cash then allows cities and towns to lower or even get rid of the development charges they put builders with. The whole idea is that this makes it cheaper to build new homes, which, in theory, should mean more affordable housing gets built and gets built a whole lot faster. And for our final section, we're doing a complete 180. Let's look at some of the day's more fascinating and, frankly, more uplifting stories from the worlds of culture and science. Okay, a quick lightning round of some pretty remarkable stories. After years of dealing with a serious illness, the one and only Celine Dion has announced a huge comeback with 10 shows in Paris. In the natural world, scientists just finished a landmark study and found there are 26,000 unique species of bees. That's 5,000 more than we even knew existed. Out in Alberta, the legendary grizzly bear, known as the Boss, has come out of hibernation at the incredible age of 28. And finally, in something straight out of a movie, thieves in Italy pulled off a heist, stealing $14 million worth of art in just 3 minutes. Wild.
So it all kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We've seen high-stakes diplomacy on the very brink of failure. We've seen these ambitious national projects aiming for the moon and for new homes. And then we've seen the simple, powerful resilience of a beloved singer or an ancient bear. It really makes you wonder. In a world full of such complex challenges, where do we find our best reason for it? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for This Explained.